Politically, Joe Biden is a dead man walking. It is over. It's just a matter of time before his bosses, Barack Obama, somebody else, who knows, says, you're not going to be the nominee. I mean, hey, if you don't believe me, check out CNN this morning.
Well, this just in, we have brand new CNN polling this morning, and the numbers are rough for President Biden. It could spell trouble for Democrats and the president's hopes for re-election in 2024. Still early, but Biden's approval rating has sunk to 39%.
Yeah, these are all very troubling for the White House. This new CNN poll shows no clear winner between President Biden and nearly all of the leading Republican presidential candidates in these theoretical matchups.
58% of Americans say that Joe Biden's policies have worsened economic conditions. That's a majority there. This number is troubling. A third of Democrats want Joe Biden as the nominee. Nearly two-thirds of his own fellow partisans would like a different candidate. And what is the concern here? We asked an open-ended question. What is your biggest concern about Biden as a presidential candidate? 49% of Democrats. And Democrat-leaning independents say age.
All right. That's CNN, who's been covering up for Joe Biden since, well, a long time now. I admire the American people, us, because we don't let the fake news get in the way, right? We've seen this decrepit guy. I mean, we've seen it. I'm sorry, but it's happening. And even though they didn't report it, we knew it was happening. How about that loss in Afghanistan? You think they could keep that from us? They tried. The fake news, they continue to try. How about Hunter Biden hanging around the White House and possibly doing cocaine right there in front of the American people? What about that granddaughter, unacknowledged by the president? Unacknowledged for years until he's forced to, The promotion, this weird, queer, whatever you want to call it, ideology, trans, whatever, in classrooms with children and at the White House. This made a lot of people mad. This was a disgrace. So, what does it mean? Those numbers, the American people noticing, Joe will be removed by his boss. I think that's Barack Obama. He's going to leave just the way he got the job. How did he get the job? You think it was democracy? The guy who came in last place in Iowa, fourth place, I believe, in New Hampshire, and suddenly they decide he's the nominee? Well, whoever made that happen is recruiting candidates right now. I have a theory as to who it's going to be, but let's wait on that. In the meantime, I guess before they saw these polls, somebody wrote a book about Biden. It's called The Last Politician. I got it. I'm reading it, so, as they say, so you don't have to. Now, first review is from the fake news, and this is a big hint that it's a bad book. They love it.
The Last Politician, inside Joe Biden's White House and the struggle for America's future, which is an illuminating, compelling account of the first 2 years of the Biden presidency.
Franklin Vore, the book is fascinating. It is The Last Politician.
We've only scratched the surface in this excellent new book out today.
Franklin Vore, it was a terrific read and definitely worth your time, worth a lot of people's time. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
All right, you think they all read the book? Did they really, huh? This is how it works. He's a swamp guy. He's one of them, gets to go on all the shows, right? They take care of their own. And the Biden administration, I think they had a guarantee that this was going to be somewhat favorable to Joe Biden, pretty much a favorable book to Joe Biden. And how did they do that?
The 300 interviews was something that has always stood out to me. This is a tough team to crack in terms of the senior. They don't talk out of turn. They don't like to talk a lot. And your ability to get inside is very different. And it presents a very nuanced view as somebody who's fairly familiar with this current administration.
So there are so many omissions of the crummy stuff that Joe Biden does and did, and we all see, that there had to be some sort of an agreement, right? We'll give you interviews, we'll give you access, but you can't write any of the really juicy stuff. You can't write anything that makes us look bad, and there's a lot of it. So I believe that this guy cooperated, and I'm sorry, but it's a sloppy bad book, all right? Page 1, not to be a nitpicker, but on page 1, the prologue, right? Joe Biden, the inauguration, it was an image in his mind. He's been dreaming about this for years. And when does it finally happen? The image in his head transposed itself into reality on January 20th, 2022. I got to tell you, when you see it in book 2022, Inauguration Day. Now, this will be important in a little bit. When was he actually inaugurated? January 20th, 2021. I'm sorry. You make a big fat mistake from a major publisher, all these editors, all these copywriters, and it's right there. I got a problem with that. And I also got a problem with how they glorify everything with Joe Biden, even the lies and the cheating, the plagiarism scandal. He inadvertently plagiarized sentences from the British politician Neil Kinnock. As if he were subconsciously confirming that there was something inauthentic about his grandiloquent style. What? You mean that he's lying like crazy all the time? That he's got a problem? And then there was this one about authoritarianism. Biden hadn't defeated authoritarianism once and for all, but he pushed back the threat for the time being. So the book is everything Trump did is terrible, right? And here it implies that Trump is the authoritarian. I think Joe Biden is the authoritarian, and I think we all know that.
Rules, be prepared to pay. And by the way, show some respect. We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin, and your refusal has cost all of us.
The President of the United States thinking he has the authority to order us what to put in our bodies, that's authoritarianism, and so is this.
Is it fair to people who, in fact, do not own multi-billion-dollar businesses that see why these guys give them all a tax breaks? Is that fair? What do you think?
Yeah, he was chiding the press for daring to question him about that trillion-dollar giveaway for giving all that student loan. He had no authority to do that, but he did it like an authoritarian. And this.
We just have to demonstrate that he will not take power if he does run, making sure he, under legitimate efforts of our Constitution, does not become the next president again.
So this book that the swamp loves says that Joe Biden is a guardian of democracy and Donald Trump is the authoritarian. This is not how authoritarians speak. This is how somebody speaks who's following the law and actually, in many ways, a traditional president.
And I'll sign the final papers as soon as I get into the Oval Office. And we will have a national emergency, and we will then be sued, and they will sue us in the Ninth Circuit, even though it shouldn't be there. And we will possibly get a bad ruling, and then we'll get another bad ruling, and then we'll end up in the Supreme Court, and hopefully we'll get a fair shake, and we'll win in the Supreme Court, just like the ban. They sued us in the Ninth Circuit, and we lost, and then we lost in the appellate division. And then we went to the Supreme Court, and we won.
Can you imagine Joe Biden talking like that? No, he said he'd just do it anyway. We're going to do it because it's not fair. And those billionaires are getting richer and richer and richer. He's just envious of the billionaires. He's envious of Donald Trump. And then it gets more serious in this book. We remember the 13 who were lost so needlessly in Afghanistan. And when they came home, in those coffins. Well, back to the book. What do they say about Joe Biden and grieving? If there was one thing that everyone agreed Biden did more adroitly than any other public official, it was comforting survivors. Really? Well, when those coffins came off the plane, Joe Biden was there along with the Secretary of Defense and others and the families. Now, it went unmentioned by the mainstream media, but the family saw it, and I saw it. Joe Biden looking at his watch. Yeah, more than once, actually, more than once, looking at his watch. And then he did meet with the families. There were no cameras there, but something really, really bad happened in that room.
Today is the date 2 years ago that we received our kids home at Dover. 2 years ago today, where we were disrespected with stories of Biden's son and him looking at his watch.
The disrespect that we were shown with him checking his watch not even looking at us. It was just total disrespect.
And there couldn't be anything more disgusting and cowardly than the way you have treated us. You are a disgrace to this nation. You have no business having ultimate command over our military, and I regret not saying that to your face when I had the opportunity in Dover. Well, I stood there on the tarmac watching you check your watch over and over again. All I wanted to do was shout out, "It's 2:30. But out of respect to the other grieving families, I bit my tongue once again.
Wow. So Joe Biden looked at his watch. I saw it. You saw it. We reported on it at the time. It's not mentioned in this book. This episode, Meeting with the Families, is mentioned. And the closest Joe gets, the author gets, to maybe something went wrong here is Joe says the following. He asked Jen Psaki, did I do something wrong? Maybe I should have handled that differently. And the whitewashing is happening in this book because it happened. They call this the first draft of history. Journalists, they love to say they're writing the first draft of history. But what happens when you leave stuff out of the first draft?
President Joe Biden honoring the fallen. The remains of U.S. service members killed this week in Kabul arriving home to the United States in flag-draped cases. He and the First Lady, along with the Secretaries of Defense, State, and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, gathered with mourning families at Dover Air Force Base for hours.
Ali Vitale is the reporter for NBC News and did not mention the watch moment. It's not in the book, and it wasn't in reports at the time, but it happened. And if you think we're being, again, like making too much of this, or the family's certain, they can say anything, quite frankly. But journalists, this is the stuff they pick up on all the time, that they're supposed to at least when Republicans do it. Who remembers the 1992 debate? George H.W. Bush, Ross Perot, and Bill Clinton. I watched that debate. I didn't think much of it. I actually didn't even notice it. But at one point, George Bush looked at his watch. They still talk about that like it was somehow the gaffe of the 1992 campaign. Watch.
And then there are the moments that seemed to say more, like President George H.W. Bush looking at his watch in a 1992 debate with Bill Clinton.
George H.W. Bush looking at his watch. Appearances count, don't they?
So while Bill Clinton is doing his I feel your pain routine, George Bush is caught in the background looking at his watch, and he doesn't just glance at his watch. He does it like he's in a theater production and trying to make sure they see it in the last row.
This is just in the past couple of years. They're still feasting on that moment. Sounds like a cost of the election. Joe Biden looking at a watch at a memorial service that grievously offended the families of the fallen, and it goes unmentioned. It's like it's erased. Why would they leave that out? So the author can live up to his agreement to not embarrass the Bidens and keep access.
The 300 interviews was something that has always stood out to me. This is a tough team to crack in terms of the senior. They don't talk out of turn. They don't like to talk a lot. And your ability to get inside is very different. And it presents a very nuanced view as somebody who's fairly familiar with this current administration.
Access, right? That's what they want, access. But they don't do anything with the access, right? They just, they get to write what the people they access want them to write. And they get to go on all the shows and sell crummy books like this one. We'll be right back.